Nearly half of Americans aged 18 to 29 received financial help from someone outside of their household last year just to cover basic recurring expenses. The average adult makes 35,000 decisions a day, and the research on what that costs your brain is more alarming than most people realize. And on July 15th, China's government deleted millions of people's AI companions overnight, and the grief that followed was immediate, genuine, and widely documented. While everyone was busy arguing about politics, a bunch of other things happened. I'm Keith Conrad, and this is News Side Quest. CNN published an investigation this weekend drawing on the Federal Reserve's latest survey of household economics and decision making. I've got a copy right here. And the headline finding is one I want to talk about for a few minutes because it connects directly to almost everything we've been talking about this year so far. Nearly half of adults aged 18 to 29 received assistance from someone outside of their household to cover recurring expenses over the past year. That's housing, transportation, medical bills, not emergencies, just recurring expenses, the baseline cost of existing as an adult right now. The story follows several real people. Philip, who with his wife makes a comfortable living, received an early inheritance that allowed them to buy a house in July 2020 for $359,000. 2 years later, it was assessed at $553,000. Philip said, "Our house is a perfect microcosm of why inheritance has become almost a necessity to become a homeowner now." His sister Chelsea used her inheritance differently. She paid off all her student loan debt and put the rest into retirement accounts. She says it's really allowed her to build a pretty strong support net for herself, which is also nice. The story also covers Nick, who didn't have access to that kind of family help. Nick said, quote, "I finally feel like I've gotten a decent job and have a good income. Then inflation and everything else kicks in. And then housing prices continue to run up. It's like, well, maybe home ownership in America wasn't meant to be for me." 3 people, same economy, profoundly different incomes. And it was determined almost entirely by whether their parents had money to give them before or instead of leaving it in a will. Having wealthy parents probably always has made things a little easier. We may have crossed the line from advantage to requirement, though. The gap between Philip and Nick isn't about work ethic, talent, or even the choices they made. It's about whether a financial runway existed at a specific moment in time when housing prices were still hittable and interest rates were still favorable. People who had access to family capital in that short window own assets that have appreciated dramatically. People who didn't are now facing a median home price of $440,000 and mortgage rates above 6%. The window didn't stay open long enough for everyone to get through it, and who got through it was almost entirely determined by inheritance and family wealth. So what role has family resources, or the absence of them, played in how your life has actually played out?
Money, money, money.
I have to say, I live in terror each day, waiting for the inevitable moment when Misty asks me what I want for dinner, because it always ends up being my decision. And I'm here to tell you that the research has given that terror a clinical name. The Associated Press published a piece this week on decision fatigue and what to actually do about it. Apparently, the average adult makes approximately 35,000 decisions per day. Most of them are so small and automatic they don't register consciously, but they all draw from the same finite cognitive resource pool. And as that pool depletes across the day, the quality of your decisions deteriorates in measurable and documented ways. Decision-making relies heavily on what researchers call the executive function network, the part of the brain that controls self-regulation, judgment, and evaluation of options. When it's depleted, a few things happen. You become more likely to default to whatever option requires the least additional thinking, which makes sense. You become more impulsive, choosing immediate rewards over long-term benefits. And you become more likely to avoid decision-making at all, which is why people scroll streaming services for 20 minutes and then give up and end up watching nothing. A study of Israeli judges, which became one of the most cited examples of decision fatigue in the research literature, found that prisoners were significantly more likely to receive favorable rulings early in the morning or right after a lunch break. Later in the session, as the judges made more decisions, the default outcome became denial. The prisoners weren't getting worse, the judges were just getting depleted. The AP piece focuses on what actually helps this problem. And the research is more specific than, well, just simplify your life. The most effective interventions involve three things: reducing the number of decisions that require active evaluation by establishing rules or defaults ahead of time, protecting your most important decisions for the time of day when your executive function is freshest, and building in genuine rest between decision-heavy periods. Not passive content consumption, but actual mental rest. I want to know your secret for avoiding decision fatigue. Here's mine. I do the same thing for breakfast every day without thinking about it. It eliminates one decision before I've made any others. It sounds minor, but apparently these scienticians say it isn't.
You will have to decide. You will have to decide. You will have to decide.
On July 15th, new Chinese government regulations on AI companions took effect. Jointly issued by 5 government departments, including the Cyberspace Administration of China, ByteDance's Duobao, China's most popular AI chatbot, shut down its custom persona feature. Alibaba's Qwen did the same. Millions of people woke up to their AI companions simply being gone. The regulations prohibit AI tools from, quote, excessively catering to users, inducing emotional dependence or addiction, and damaging users' real interpersonal relationships, end quote. Companies must now build in instant exit options, regular reminders that AI is not real, and limits on long-term emotional memory. Minors are banned from AI relationships entirely. The stated motivation from Beijing, and you can always trust them, right, is demographic. China's marriage rate has hit record lows. Its birth rate is the lowest in recorded history. Regulators are worried that falling in love with agreeable, always-on AI companions is pulling people out of the marriage market entirely. Matt Sheehan at Carnegie Endowment described it as regulators worrying about people forming deep emotional bonds that could take them out of the marriage market and lead to addiction and dependency. One 19-year-old student in China had exchanged hundreds of thousands of messages with her AI boyfriend over more than a year. When the shutdown was announced, Bloomberg reported, she said she felt like she could not go on living. One app filled with users archiving their final chats and saying goodbye. This policy is brought to you by the same government that enforced a one-child-only policy for a couple generations and is now alarmed about the demographic consequences. That's a real irony. The one-child policy artificially constrained family size for decades. The AI companion crackdown is trying to reverse the consequences of a society that, in the absence of the right economy and social conditions for human connection, found alternatives that worked for them. The experts are pretty consistent about all this. AI companions are a symptom of the underlying conditions, not the cause of the demographic decline. Economic pressure, housing unaffordability, long working hours, and gender dynamics in dating all play bigger roles than chatbots. Banning the symptom is not going to end up treating the disease. So where do you draw the line on AI as a substitute for human connection, and does the line move depending on what kind of connection it's replacing?
Hello, Smithers. You're quite good at turning me on.
2 families in North Dakota are suing a hospital after DNA testing confirmed their children were switched at birth 38 years ago. Both families raised each other's biological children their entire lives without knowing. This sounds like the plot of a Dickens novel. Actually, it could be the plot of several Dickens novels simultaneously. The lawsuit was filed last week.
Oh, brother!
brother?
I'm Paul. You must be Tommy.
Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers gotta hug.
A man is suing his bank, claiming the loan they approved for his $5.5 million mansion should never have been granted in the first place. The "how dare you give me the money I asked for" defense is going to be a challenging legal argument to sustain. The details of the case are extraordinary, and the legal theory is something I look forward to watching explained in court.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
An Alabama woman who allegedly poisoned her husband with fentanyl 4 times has a husband who says he's committed to staying in the relationship. He might want to reconsider that position while he still can.
Oh, to be young and to feel love's keen sting.
Spain has deployed firefighting donkeys in forest regions where the animals graze on dry grass and underbrush, reducing fire risk naturally without machinery or chemical treatment. This is actually a genuine innovation in wildfire prevention, and the donkeys are apparently very good at their jobs. Farewell and adieu, you fair Spanish donkeys. That's it for New Side Quest. 3 questions to open the week. What role family resources, or the lack thereof, have actually played in your life? Your secret for managing decision fatigue, and where you draw the line on AI as a substitute for human connection. Email me at newsidequest@gmail.com or swing by the Substack comments. See you tomorrow.